The cameras were rolling, but no one expected this. In the middle of a tense production meeting that felt more like a battlefield than a boardroom, Mona Scott-Young herself, the powerhouse behind Love and Hip Hop, stood up and shocked everyone. Her voice cut through the room with an icy calm that carried more weight than a scream. "Kirk, you're done." Gasps filled the air, and for a moment, even the producers forgot the cameras were there. Fans are already calling it one of the most explosive shakeups in reality TV history. And emotions ran high as cast members scrambled to process what had just happened. For years, Kirk Frost has been at the center of scandals, betrayals, and never-ending drama that kept viewers glued to their screens. From secret affairs to DNA tests that rattled the Frost family to public clashes that left Rashida in tears, Kirk's name has become almost synonymous with chaos. But while drama sells, Mona had reached her breaking point. Sources close to production whispered that she had been quietly building her case for months, watching as Kirk's latest antics threatened not only his family but the very reputation of the show itself. The moment she said the words, the room divided. Some cast members sat frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. Others muttered finally under their breath, as if waiting for this day all along. Rashida's face reportedly crumbled in shock, torn between relief and humiliation, while Jasmine Washington smirked from across the room, her expression saying more than words ever could. Young Jock, Carly Red, and even Mendices exchanged uneasy looks, realizing the landscape of their world had just shifted forever. This wasn't just a firing, it was a public execution of Kirk's place in Love and Hip Hop. Fans are shocked. The cast is divided, and the fallout promises to be unlike anything the franchise has ever seen. The question now is simple: was this the end of Kirk Frost, or just the beginning of an even darker storm? The news of Mona Scott's shocking decision spread through the cast like wildfire. Kirk sat there in disbelief, his eyes darting across the room as if searching for an escape hatch. Rashida's breath hitched, her hands trembling as she pressed them against her lap. While the silence after Mona's announcement felt heavier than thunder, Kirk tried to laugh it off, shaking his head and muttering, "Man, Mona, you playin' right, you can't fire me. I'm the storyline." But his forced chuckle fell flat. No one laughed with him. Instead, the cast sat stone-faced, their expressions ranging from pity to satisfaction. Jasmine leaned forward, her voice dripping with venom. "About time," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He's been dragging this show down for years, and you know it. How many times we gotta sit through another Kirk done messed up plotline?" Her words cut like a knife, and the tension in the room climbed higher. Rashida turned toward her, her eyes filling with fury. "You need to shut your mouth, Jasmine. You don't know half of what we've been through." Jasmine smirked, tilting her head as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Oh, I know enough. And the fans know too. They're tired of protecting him just because you don't want to face the truth." Carly Red suddenly clapped her hands together, breaking the thick silence with her signature messy energy. "Y'all, this is history. Mona done pulled the trigger, and I don't care what anybody says. The show's about to go up." Her laugh echoed around the room, but not everyone shared her excitement. Young Jock leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "Nah, this don't feel right. Kirk been here since day one. You can't just erase him like he nothing. What about all the history, the ups, the downs?" Mona's eyes fixed on Jock, her expression unshaken. "History doesn't excuse behavior that poisons the show. I've given Kirk chance after chance, and every single season he found a way to drag his family, his reputation, and this franchise into the mud. Enough is enough." Her voice was calm, but the conviction behind it was unshakable. Even the producers behind the cameras nodded subtly, as if silently backing her up. Kirk slammed his fist on the table, his voice rising. "So that's it? After everything I've done for this show, after all the ratings I brought in, you gone sit here and act like I'm the problem?" His voice cracked at the end, betraying the fear simmering beneath his anger. Rashida's eyes widened, and for a split second, sympathy flickered across her face. But just as quickly, it disappeared, replaced by years of pent-up frustration. "Kirk, let's be real. You are the problem. You humiliated me in front of the world, season after season, and I stood by you. And what did I get? More lies. More side chicks. More DNA tests. I'm tired." Her voice broke as she said it, and tears threatened to spill down her cheeks. The room shifted. Fans watching at home would later say it felt like the walls themselves were vibrating with the weight of what was happening. Jock rubbed his temples, whispering under his breath, "Man, this is too much." Meanwhile, Carly pulled out her phone, pretending to check her messages but really recording every detail for later gossip. Mendices leaned toward Yandi muttering, "Yo, this might change everything. If Kirk can go, Anybody can go. Yandi gave a slow nod, her eyes still locked on Rashida's trembling frame. Suddenly, Jasmine rose from her chair, her voice slicing through the chaos. Rashida, you should be thanking Mona. She just freed you. Now you can stop pretending to be boss chick while babysitting a man who never respected you. The words stung like acid, and Rashida shot up, pointing a shaking finger at Jasmine. Don't you dare speak on me. Don't you dare. You came into my marriage, you wrecked my family, and now you want to act like you care. You don't care about me. You don't care about my kids. You just love the spotlight. The two women stood nose to nose, voices raised, the cast watching in stunned silence. Producers rushed forward, trying to de-escalate before things turned physical. Mona's voice boomed across the room. Enough. This isn't about you two right now. This is about accountability. And Kirk has finally reached the end of the line. Kirk's voice softened, almost breaking into a plea. Mona, don't do this. You know this show ain't the same without me. You think these people can carry it? Jock out here, jokin' Carly messy as ever, Jasmine starin' the pot, and Rashida, she barely hung in on. I keep this show alive. His words hung in the air, desperate and raw, but Mona's face didn't budge. No, Kirk, you keep this show stuck, and it's time to move forward. At that moment, Rashida sank back into her chair, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. Jock muttered, damn, bro, while Carly gleefully whispered, this gone trend for weeks. Jasmine folded her arms, satisfied, and Mona stood firm, unmoved by the chaos she had unleashed. The cameras caught every second. Fans would later flood social media, posting clips with captions like Mona finally snapped and Kirk's reign is over. Some cheered, some mourned, but all agreed, love and hip-hop would never be the same again. Back in the room, silence returned. Kirk lowered his head, his shoulders slumped in defeat. For the first time, the man who had played puppet master in so many scandals looked powerless. The once smug grin was gone, replaced by the hollow stare of a man who knew his empire had crumbled. Yet even in that moment of defeat, Kirk's mind was spinning. He wasn't about to walk away quietly. His jaw tightened, his fists clenched, and his voice, though quieter, carried a dangerous edge. If I'm going down, I'm talking a few people with me. The cast gasped, and all eyes turned toward him. Rashida froze, Jasmine arched her brow, and even Mona's expression hardened. The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud, promising that this was not the end of Kirk Frost's story, it was just the beginning of his darkest chapter. Jock shot up from his chair as if a fire had licked his heels, palms out, trying to calm the thunder gathering behind Kirk's eyes. Bro, don't do that. You hot right now. Breathe. Carly tilted her head with a sly smile that looked like it had been rehearsed for a decade. Record scratch moment, y'all. Kirk threatening to spill tea. Now we talking premium cable. Yandi cut in, measured and maternal. This isn't about gossip, Carly. People's families are attached to that tea. Mona folded her arms as the room settled into a wary hush. Her voice was firm, controlled, with that executive cold that told everyone she had already accounted for every move. If you have something to say, say it on the record. But understand this, throwing gasoline doesn't make the fire your friend. Kirk stared back at her, then at Rashida, then at the lenses pointed like a dozen unforgiving eyes. When he finally spoke, the words came in a low, steady cadence. I signed. The words came in a low, steady cadence. I signed contracts. I did scenes. Y'all fed off my mistakes. Every tear, every fight. And now I'm just desperate. He looked at Rashida as if appealing to a jury of one. Tell her I saved this show more than once. Rashida's voice was soft, frayed at the edges. I can't save you, Kirk. The words landed like a gavel. Jasmine shifted her stance, arms crossed, chin lifted. Ain't nobody obligated to save a grown man. Not Mona, not me, not Rashida. Jock groaned. Jas, please, but Jasmine wasn't done. Matter of fact, the fans are shocked you lasted this long. Mona turned to Ward, a producer at the back. Cut to singles. I want confessional pickups today. The order snapped a chain of movement into place. Crew members stirred, lighting rigs hummed, the air conditioning coughed. Everything about the room said business as usual. Everything about the faces said nothing was usual anymore. In the confessional booth, the beige chair felt like a witness stand. Carly sat first, lashes fluttering, mouth poised to detonate. So, do I think Kirk deserved it? She took a long, dramatic pause. Look, he's the blueprint of messy. But messy ain't free. Somebody always pays. Usually Rashida. She leaned in as if sharing a state secret. Mona is tired, y'all. Tired. And when Mona's tired, the credits roll on you for real. Jock's confessional followed. Eyes raw, Kirk my boy, we argues, we clowns, we party, we pick each other up. But man, sometimes you dig a hole thinking it's a hot tub. Jasmine's confessional was clipped, almost surgical. Actions meet consequences. We all signed up for cameras. We didn't sign up to babysit. Rashida sat down last, the crew dead quiet as her mic rustled against a trembling blouse. I love my husband, but love without change is torture. I need air. I need peace. I need to know I'm not just a plot device in somebody else's disaster. Her eyes glistened, and she took a breath that sounded like a torn curtain being mended. If this is the end of a chapter, maybe it's the start of me. By late afternoon, the hallways pulsed with whispers. Word had already leaked beyond the set. A junior producer had texted a cousin. The cousin had posted a cryptic Atlanta about to be in flames, and the algorithm did the rest. Fans flooded timelines with split-screen edits and decade-spanning compilations. Emotions ran high across the internet, with some defending Kirk as a reality TV icon, others calling the move long overdue. The family was left divided on screen and off, and that fracture was trending. Mona returned to the conference room with folders under her arm and a lawyer at her shoulder. Kirk, you'll receive formal documentation by end of day. HR will coordinate with your representation. We'll honor everything owed per contract. There will be an, you know the drill. Kirk laughed, hollow and echoing. You always do love a good NDA. The lawyer, a quiet woman with careful eyes, took a single sheet from the folder and slid it across the table. There are specifics we need to acknowledge in writing. Kirk didn't read it. He pushed the paper back with a fingertip. You can serve me 1,000 papers. Still don't change the story that got us here. Rashida stood, hands clasped so tight her knuckles blanched. I need to go. Mona nodded. Take 10. Jasmine stepped aside, not out of respect but because she wanted a better view of everything unraveling. Yandy moved to intercept Rashida in the hallway. Sis, she whispered, pulling her into a hug that held its own weight. Grieve the idea, not the person you wish he was. Rashida's shoulders shook. I wanted it to be different, she said, not to Yandy, not to the cameras, but to the version of herself that had kept the house from collapsing with pure will. I wanted the apology to come first, and then the change. I wanted the change. Yandy stroked her hair. Change always comes late to the party, but it still comes. Back in the room, Jock closed the door, leaving him, Kirk, and Mona inside with the lawyer. Just gimme 5 with him, Jock said. Mona inclined her head and stepped back, the lawyer hovering by the frame. Jock sat next to Kirk. Look at me, he said quietly. Bro, look at me. Kirk finally turned. You think I'm evil. I think you're human, Jock replied. A messy, stubborn, prideful human, and I think you forgot the difference between attention and affection. The cameras gave you attention. Rashida gave you affection. You traded the wrong one. Kirk rubbed his jaw, swallowed hard. I was trying to stay relevant. You were trying not to feel small, Jock said. They ain't the same fight. Mona re-entered with her phone buzzing. We need clarity before this spins. She placed the device on the table, screen lit with headlines. Sources say Kirk fired for secret off-camera scandal. False, the lawyer said immediately. We can't let third-party blogs define narrative, Mona added. We can own the reality, performance concerns, cumulative conduct, fatigue with repetitive arcs. That's the clean truth. Kirk scoffed. Clean truth. Since when is truth clean on this show? Mona sat down opposite him, steepling her fingers. When it protects the people who still have to work here, when it protects Rashida, when it protects the crew who fix chaos, you don't see. The truth can be both honest and merciful. He took that in, eyes flicking to the door where he'd watched Rashida leave. A producer hurried in, whispering in Mona's ear. She stiffened, then glanced toward Kirk. We have a problem. Someone leaked a call sheet that makes it look like we staged today. Kirk's head snapped up. You saying I leaked it? I'm not saying anything, Mona replied. I'm telling you what's out there. The lawyer tapped her tablet. We can issue a takedown, but the reposts will multiply. Carly popped her head around the door, camera already rolling on her phone. The streets is hungry, and y'all got a buffet. Mona's look sent her scurrying away, but the damage was done. There was blood in the water. Outside, a crowd of fans had gathered by the lot gate, drawn by live location tags and breathless Instagram lives. Security tried to keep them back, but the sound carried in, shrieks of "We love you, Rashida," mixed with "Kirk, apologize," and Mona, queen of TV. Emotions ran high in the Georgia heat, and a mother with a toddler on her hip shouted that she'd grown up watching the Frosts survive everything. The family was left divided in a chorus of strangers who felt like relatives because they'd shared years of Sundays with them. Inside, Rashida stood at the makeup mirror, smudging mascara with the heel of her hand. Resetting her face the way you reset a life, gently, piece by piece. Jasmine appeared in the doorway, hesitant for the first time all day. "I came to say I'm not gloating," she offered. "You've been gloating since breakfast," Rashida replied. Not unkindly, just truthful. Jasmine looked at the floor. "I don't know who I am on this show without fighting you." Rashida lifted her gaze to the mirror. "Maybe be someone who builds something instead of breaking it." Jasmine swallowed. "I don't know how." "Then learn," Rashida said. "Start small. Start with shutting up when silence is kinder." The corner of Jasmine's mouth twitched. "That last part might kill me." "It won't," Rashida said, almost smiling. In the parking lot, Kirk stood alone by his car, scrolling his phone like a man trying to locate the version of himself he'd lost. A text arrived from an unknown number. "You want your side told? We'll pay." He stared at it, then typed and deleted the same sentence 3 times. Jock's reflection appeared in the driver's window. "Don't sell your soul to a blog on sale," Jock said. "Ain't enough coupon codes for that refund." Kirk huffed a laugh despite himself. "You always been too good at pep talks that sound like jokes." "Because jokes go down easier," Jock said. "Truth sticks in the throat, so I butter it." He clapped Kirk's shoulder. "Go home, or go to therapy. Or both. I ain't your judge, but don't let anger be your PR manager." Mona convened a smaller circle in a side office. Yandi, a senior producer, the lawyer, and a network exec on speaker. The exec's voice was crisp. "We support your decision, Mona, but the audience is deeply invested in those two as a couple. We need a plan to preserve Rashida's arc." Mona nodded. "We'll center her agency. No pity edits, no she's rebuilding. The fans want to root for resilience," Yandi added, "and give her new stakes that aren't reactionary. Career, mentorship, brand expansion. Maybe a women's summit she hosts." The lawyer interjected, "We also need to preempt any narrative that firing equals punishment for being a husband. It's about conduct, not marriage status." Mona's jaw tightened. "I'll film a sit-down. Calm, clear, accountable. And I'll say the words. I care about people more than plot." Evening fell, the city outside humming in neon and taillights. The crew wrapped cables with the reverence of people who had just witnessed a chapter close. In a quiet corridor, Rashida found a plain envelope taped to her dressing room door with her name in block letters. Inside was a handwritten note from Mona. "You are not a storyline, you are a person. Let's build around that." Rashida held the note as if it might dissolve. She thought of the years she'd spent turning pain into content, the times she'd smiled through humiliation because the show needed a season arc. She thought of fans who had messaged her with their own stories of forgiveness, and fatigue. For the first time in a long time, her breath didn't feel like borrowed air. Kirk drove to the top of a parking deck that overlooked the skyline he'd called home for a lifetime and a TV lifetime besides. He turned off the engine and let the city's low thunder fill the car. His phone buzzed again. Old friends, distant cousins, a talent manager he hadn't spoken to since season 2. Each offering advice that sounded like sales pitches. He opened his notes app and started typing. "I'm not the villain or the victim. I'm the man who made choices." Then he added, "I want to do better." He stared at the sentence until the screen dimmed. He didn't hit save. He didn't delete it either. Back at the studio gates, Carly narrated alive to an audience that swelled by the second. "What y'all need to understand," she said, lashes batting like tiny fans, "is that this ain't the end. This the remix. And baby, the remix always chart higher." Comments flew so fast they blurred, half calling her messy, half declaring her an icon. All feeding the machine that would turn the day's shattering into next week's episode. A security guard cleared his throat. Carly winked and ended the live with a flourish, already planning the next. Inside, Mona sat alone in the darkened conference room, the hum of the building her only soundtrack. She watched a playback of the moment she'd said the words. Her face was composed, her tone steady, but her eyes betrayed the cost of leadership. The lawyer reappeared in the doorway. "We'll have signatures on the addendum tomorrow." Mona nodded. "Thank you." The lawyer hesitated. "For what it's worth, I think you did the humane thing." Mona didn't look away from the screen. "Humane doesn't always feel good," she said, "but it's still the assignment." She closed the laptop and exhaled, not victorious, not regretful, just resolute. Night deepened. Fans refreshed their feeds one more time before bed. Group chats buzzed with theories. Edits were cut, captions drafted, drafts rewritten. Emotions ran high because stories that feel like family always do. The Frost household was quiet, lights low. Rashida sat at the kitchen table with a mug of tea. The note from Mona lying between her hands like a compass pointing away from a storm. Kirk stood in the doorway, eyes rimmed with the exhaustion of a man who had sprinted in place for years. Neither spoke. The house held the breath for them. Finally, he said, "Do you want me to leave tonight?" The question trembled in the air. An honest thing after so many scripted ones. Rashida looked up, and her answer was careful, tender, and devastating. "I want you to choose who you're going to be. Then we'll see if there's room for him here." He nodded, a slow bow to the truth. Across town, Jasmine lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The victory she'd imagined tasting oddly flat. She texted a single message to an unsaved number. "I'm trying to be better too. If you want help with the Women's Summit idea, I got contacts." The message hovered, then sent. She turned the phone face down and let the dark wash over her like a quiet curtain. The city settled into its night rhythm, and the show's universe tilted, not broken but undeniably changed. Tomorrow would bring statements, reactions, think pieces, apologies, plots and counterplots. For now, Atlanta breathed. And somewhere in that breath, the truth Mona had spoken earlier glowed like a low flame. Moving forward is not an edit, it is a choice, taken once, and then again, and again, until the scene finally matches the script. The sun rose over Atlanta with a brightness that mocked the heaviness hanging over the cast. Social media had already exploded with clips and commentary from the night before. And hashtags like #KirkFired, #MonaSnaps, and #Justice for RASHEEDA were trending across multiple platforms. Fans were shocked, dissecting every second of Mona's confrontation and every flicker of emotion on Rashida's face. Some praised Mona as a queen who finally cut off the dead weight, while others accused her of sacrificing Kirk for ratings. The family was left divided not only inside the show but outside it, as online fanbases split into warring camps, each defending their favorite player in the drama. Rashida sat in her boutique, pressed between racks of clothing, scrolling through thousands of comments. Most messages supported her, calling her strong and resilient, but a darker thread ran underneath. "She stayed too long. She's complicit." She knew and still filmed it. The words pierced deeper than the sympathy soothed. Kelsey, her daughter, hovered nearby, folding shirts with unnecessary force. "Mom, don't read that mess. People say whatever when they bored." Rashida sighed, pushing the phone aside. "It's not just boredom. It's what they believe. And maybe they're right." One kept putting on a smile while the house was burning. Kelsey placed a hand on her shoulder. "Nah, you were holding the house up. Without you, everything would have collapsed years ago." Rashida hugged her daughter, whispering, "I don't know if I got the strength to rebuild again." Meanwhile, Kirk was pacing the living room, his phone buzzing nonstop. Calls from old acquaintances, reporters, and even gossip vloggers offering him a chance to clear his side. He finally answered one from an old music industry friend. "Yo, man, everybody talking. You need to do an exclusive. Set the record straight. Cash in while it's hot." Kirk shook his head, his voice weary. "I'm not a circus act." His friend laughed. "Brewer, you've been a circus act for a decade. Might as well get paid." Kirk ended the call, slamming the phone down. For the first time, the adrenaline that had carried him through years of chaos was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. He whispered to himself, "What if Mona's right? What if I really am the problem?" At the production office, Mona gathered key producers for a war room-style meeting. "Damage control," she declared, sliding a stack of papers onto the table. "We need to shape this narrative before Kirk does." One producer asked nervously, "What if he leaks behind-the-scenes details? Contracts, staged moments, things the fans aren't supposed to know?" Mona leaned forward, her voice steady. "Let him. It won't change the truth the viewers care about. His behavior made him unwatchable. If he wants to sink lower, let him dig his own grave." Yandi spoke up.com, but firm. "We can't just focus on Kirk. We need to build Rashida back up. The fans want to see her thrive, not just survive." Mona nodded. "Agreed. We'll center her next season. She'll be the phoenix rising from the ashes." Across town, Carly Red was busy stirring her own pot. She went live on Instagram, sipping a mimosa with a grin that screamed mischief. "So y'all saw what happened, right? Kirk out the picture. But let me tell you, that wasn't even the juiciest part. There's still secrets he holding. And when they come out, Hugh baby, Atlanta ain't ready." The comments flew in a frenzy, begging her to spill more, but Carly only laughed. "I ain't no snitch. Yet, but stay tuned." Her cryptic teasing sent bloggers into a frenzy, with rumors multiplying faster than the truth could catch up. Jasmine, however, found herself in an unexpected position. She was used to being the villain, the side piece who stirred chaos, but now the spotlight shifted differently. On her live, she appeared subdued, almost reflective. Look, I know y'all think I'm celebrating Kirk being gone, but real talk, I'm not. This whole mess, it's bigger than me, bigger than him. Family's been torn apart, kids been watching their parents tear each other down on TV. That ain't cute, that ain't winning. For once, her fans saw a glimpse of sincerity. Comments poured in. Is Jasmine finally growing up? We stand growth. Others were more skeptical. She acting brand new, 'cause the camera angle changed. Still, the shift was noticeable, and it left viewers curious about where she would go from here. That evening, cameras followed Rashida and Kelsey as they met Yandi for dinner. The atmosphere was heavy at first, but Yandi brought her steady warmth. Sis, you've been carrying the weight of two people for too long. Let this be your moment to carry only yourself. Rashida dabbed at her eyes. I don't know how to let go. Every time I think about walking away, I hear his voice, begging, promising, and I fall for it. Yandi reached across the table. Then this time, don't listen to his voice. Listen to your own. The words lingered, and Rashida felt a small crack of light pushing through the heaviness. Meanwhile, Kirk found himself at a downtown bar, nursing a drink while strangers whispered and pointed. A man he barely knew clapped him on the back. Yo, Frost, you still a legend, man. Don't let nobody cancel you. Kirk managed a weak smile, but inside, he felt like a ghost haunting his own legacy. He left early, driving aimlessly through the city, ending up in front of the very studio where Mona had ended his run. He stared at the dark building, fists clenched on the steering wheel. His voice broke as he whispered, they think they can erase me. They got another thing coming. Back at the Frost home, Rashida returned from dinner, tired but calmer. She found Kirk sitting in the dark living room, the only light coming from his phone screen. He looked up, eyes red. Rashida, tell me the truth. Do you want me gone from the show? Or gone from? Tell me the truth. Do you want me gone from the show? Or gone from your life? The question hung in the air like a bomb. She didn't answer immediately, her silence saying more than words ever could, and in that silence, the fracture between them widened. The future uncertain, the drama far from over. The silence between Kirk and Rashida stretched so long it felt like another character in the room. Rashida finally set her purse down and leaned against the wall, her voice quiet but sharp. Kirk, you asking me if I want you gone? You already been gone. Every time you chose attention over us. Every time you let me cry in front of millions while you smirked. Every time you called it just for TV, you left. I just didn't shut the door behind you. Kirk rubbed his face, the weight of her words pressing down harder than any headline. So what? You saying I'm just done? Rashida's eyes glistened, but her tone was steady. I'm saying I can't carry this anymore. Not for Mona, not for ratings, and not for you. The air was thick with finality, yet Kirk wasn't ready to surrender. He slammed his hand on the coffee table. You think Mona firing me ends me? Nah. I know things about her. About this show. About people sitting pretty while I'm the only one painted the villain. You think fans are shocked now? Wait till I start talking. His threat was half fury, half desperation, but Rashida didn't flinch. Do what you gotta do. But understand this. When you drag everyone else, you drag me too, and I won't let you take me down with you. The next morning, Atlanta woke up to chaos. Blogs lit up with a blurry video of Kirk leaving the bar, ranting to a group of men about exposing everything. Carly Red reposted it with a caption full of fire emojis and the line, I told y'all, the tea kettle boiling. Fans were in disbelief, speculating wildly about what Kirk might reveal. Some begged him to spill the real tea, while others warned him not to ruin Rashida's chance at peace. Emotions ran high, and the Frost household became ground zero for the latest reality TV earthquake. Meanwhile, Mona convened with her legal team in a sleek downtown office. The lawyer laid it out plainly. If Kirk speaks, we can't stop him, but we can counteract him. We control the narrative by focusing on Rashida's growth, not his spiral. Mona nodded, her voice cool. Then that's what we'll do. He can play the martyr, but we'll make Rashida the hero. Yandi, sitting in the corner, added softly, the fans need someone to root for, and they already chose her. At her boutique later that day, Rashida greeted customers with a forced smile. Cameras trailed her every move, capturing the contrast between the boss chick exterior and the storm raging inside. One fan approached her with trembling hands. You saved me. Watching you. You showed me you can survive betrayal and still stand tall. Rashida hugged the woman, her own tears threatening. In that moment, she realized Mona was right. Her story was no longer about Kirk, it was about her resilience. But across town, Kirk was plotting. He sat in a dimly lit studio with a shady podcaster known for exposing industry secrets. The mic was hot, the camera rolling, and Kirk leaned forward with a dangerous glint in his eye. Y'all think Mona, the savior of reality TV. Let me tell you, she built this empire on exploiting pain. And guess whose pain she cashed in on the most? Mine, Rashida's, my kids. The podcaster grinned, sensing viral gold. So you saying the show is faker than we think? Kirk smirked. I'm saying you ain't seen nothing yet. Back at the Frost home, Rashida got a call from Yandi. Her friend's voice was tense. Sis, he's about to blow everything up. You need to prepare. Rashida closed her eyes, exhaling deeply. I'm so tired, Yandi. I just want peace. Why can't he just let me breathe? Yandi's reply was steady. Because chaos is all he knows. But you know how to turn pain into power. Remember that. As the podcast teaser went live, fans flooded social media again. Clips of Kirk's accusations spread like wildfire, and the battle lines deepened. Some declared him brave for exposing the truth, while others dragged him for trying to sabotage Rashida's chance at healing. The family was left divided, not only in their own home but in the eyes of millions who felt invested in their story. And as the storm grew louder, one thing became clear. Mona may have fired Kirk, but his fight to control the narrative had only just begun. Kirk's voice poured out of the podcast mic like gasoline on a growing fire. His words were bitter, deliberate, almost rehearsed. You think it was my cheating that kept this show alive? Nah. It was Mona knowing my family was already fractured, and she made sure those cracks were never sealed. She didn't just film the pain, she magnified it, built whole seasons around it. And when I tried to step away, she told me straight, without Rashida and Kirk, there is no Atlanta. The podcaster's eyes lit up. He knew every sentence was pure viral gold. So, what you saying is, the producers kept you toxic on purpose? Kirk leaned forward, elbows on the table, jaw tight. Exactly. Every time I tried to make things right with Rashida, they'd bring Jasmine back in. They'd dig up old dirt. They even scheduled filming around arguments. You think that DNA test drama just happened? They planned the reveal like a movie. Across the city, Mona sat in her office with a producer, watching the teaser as it went viral. Her face was calm, but her fingers tapped the table like a slow countdown. He's painting me as the villain, she murmured. The producer nodded nervously. Do we respond? Mona's eyes narrowed. Not yet. Let him talk. He's making himself look bitter. We'll make Rashida look stronger. The contrast will tell the story for us. Meanwhile, Rashida was in her boutique when her phone buzzed with alerts. Customers in the shop were whispering, scrolling their screens. One young woman gasped. Oh my God, did you see what Kirk said about Mona? He's exposing everything. Rashida froze, the weight of humiliation crashing down again. Kelsey rushed to her mother's side, whispering fiercely, don't look at it. Don't give him your energy. But Rashida couldn't resist. She unlocked her phone and saw the clip. Her husband's face plastered across every gossip blog. His voice cut her deeper than the betrayal itself. She knew. She allowed it. She profited off it. The implication was clear. Kirk wasn't just accusing Mona, was dragging Rashida down with him, as if she had been complicit in her own suffering. That night, the Frost home became a battlefield. Rashida stormed into the living room, phone clutched in her hand. Why would you say that? Why would you make it look like I sat back and let you humiliate me? Kirk shot up from the couch, defensive. I didn't mean it like that. I was telling the truth about Mona. Rashida's eyes blazed. No, you were telling the truth about yourself, but you dragged me into it. Do you know how that feels? To survive years of embarrassment and then here you put it on me. Kirk's voice cracked. I was angry. I was tired of them painting me as the only bad guy. Rashida shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You are the bad guy, Kirk. Nobody forced you to cheat. Nobody forced you to lie. Mona didn't put Jasmine in your bed, you did that. Their shouting echoed through the halls, captured by hidden cameras still rolling for behind-the-scenes footage. Producers huddled outside, whispering to each other. One muttered, "This is gold," while another shook her head, murmuring, "This is real pain." The line between entertainment and destruction blurred even further. The next morning, social media was split in half. Hashtags like #ExposeMona and #ProtectRasheeda trended simultaneously. Fans argued viciously in the comments. Some defended Kirk as brave for speaking out, while others slammed him for trying to rewrite history. Emotions ran high as the fanbase fractured like the Frost family itself. One viral tweet read, "Kirk been the villain for years, now he wanna play whistleblower. Boy, bye." Another countered, "Y'all mad but he just told the truth about reality TV. Mona been exploiting black pain for profit, period." Back in Mona's office, the situation escalated. The network executive called in, his voice sharp with urgency. "Mona, this podcast is everywhere. Sponsors are calling. We need a response before the brand takes a hit." Mona exhaled slowly, her composure unshaken. "We'll give them a response. But not from me. From Rashida." Later that afternoon, Rashida sat in front of a camera for a solo interview. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady. "I want to set the record straight. Nobody forced Kirk to do the things he did. Nobody told him to step out of our marriage. Nobody told him to disrespect our family. That was his choice. Yes, the cameras caught it, but it wasn't staged. It wasn't scripted. It was my life, my pain, and I lived it in front of the world because I didn't want to hide the truth." Her voice broke as she continued. "I'm tired of carrying the blame for his mistakes. I'm tired of being the one to clean up the mess. From now on, I'm not living for the cameras. I'm living for myself and my kids." The crew sat in stunned silence as her words echoed in the studio. When the clip aired, fans flooded the internet with support. Comments poured in. "Rashida is a queen. Protect this woman at all costs. This is the growth arc we've been waiting for." Even some of Kirk's defenders shifted sides, realizing his attempt to scapegoat her had backfired. But Kirk wasn't finished. Fueled by pride and desperation, he returned to the podcast the following week with receipts. He pulled out old call sheets, text messages with producers, and even audio recordings of off-camera conversations. "Look," he said, slamming a stack of papers on the table. "They wanted me to fight with Rashida on cue. They wanted Jasmine back for ratings. This whole thing was orchestrated." The podcaster leaned in, eyes wide. "So you're saying Mona scripted your marriage?" Kirk smirked. "I'm saying she knew how to twist it, and I played the role she wanted. And now she acting like I'm the only villain. Nah, everybody guilty." Within hours, the internet erupted again. Screenshots of Kirk's so-called receipts spread everywhere, though many were blurry or incomplete. Some fans believed him, others dismissed it as desperate spin. Bloggers had a field day, dissecting every page, every word, every recording. The controversy reached mainstream outlets, with headlines like "Love and Hip-Hop Star Accuses Producers of Exploiting Marriage Drama" and "Rashida Responds with Emotional Interview." Behind the scenes, Mona held a private meeting with Rashida, Yandi, and a handful of trusted producers. The tension was palpable. Mona spoke first. "He wants to burn everything down. We can't let him, but we also can't silence him, or it looks like we're hiding something." Yandi leaned forward, her voice calm. "Then don't silence him. Outshine him. Show the fans that Rashida's moving forward while he's stuck in the past." Mona nodded slowly. "Exactly. We build her as the phoenix, and we let him drown in his own bitterness." Rashida sat quietly, absorbing it all. Finally, she whispered, "I just want peace. But if telling my truth helps other women, then I'll do it." Mona placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not just about helping other women. It's about reclaiming your power. You've been surviving Kirk's storms for years. Now it's time to show you can thrive without him." And so, production pivoted. Instead of centering Kirk's downfall, the cameras turned to Rashida's journey of independence. They filmed her launching a new clothing line, mentoring young women, and reconnecting with family outside the drama. Fans ate it up, flooding her comments with encouragement. The narrative was, shifting. Rashida was no longer just Kirk's wife. She was her own force. But Kirk, watching from the sidelines, fumed. His bitterness grew as he saw Rashida's star rise while his own dimmed. He poured his energy into more rants, more exposes, but each one seemed less convincing, more desperate. He accused Mona of silencing him, accused Rashida of betrayal, accused the network of erasing his legacy. Yet with each outburst, fans grew more fatigued. The once mighty Kirk Frost was becoming a caricature of himself. Late one night, Kirk sat alone in his car, scrolling through endless comments calling him bitter, toxic, and washed up. His reflection in the windshield looked older, wearier, broken. For the first time, he saw not the villain the world had painted, but the man he had become, and he didn't recognize himself. He whispered into the darkness, "What if they're right?" Meanwhile, Rashida tucked her children into bed, the weight of the day finally lifting as she kissed their foreheads. For the first time in years, she felt something close to peace. Outside, the cameras packed up, the city lights glowed, and Atlanta buzzed with rumors, speculation, and endless drama. The storm was far from over, but for Rashida, the dawn of a new chapter had begun. Kirk sat in that dark car longer than he intended, the city humming beneath him like a restless machine. His phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up the screen. Kirk Frost trending number 3 in the United States. He clicked it, scrolling through memes, think pieces, and savage comments. One read, he went from boss to bitter in one season. Another, this man tanked his own marriage, his career, and now he wants to tank Mona too. His jaw tightened. He hated the way they laughed at him, but he couldn't stop reading. Each swipe was a fresh wound, but also a strange form of fuel. The next morning, production was chaos. Mona had called an emergency cast meeting at the studio, and everyone showed up buzzing with tension. The air was thick, like a courtroom before the verdict. Carly arrived first, dripping in designer shades. Already live on Instagram. "I'm just here for the tea," she announced, blowing kisses to the comments pouring in. Young Jock trailed behind, shaking his head. "Carly, can you chill for once? This ain't no game." She smirked. "Everything's a game, Jock. You just never play to win." Rashida entered quietly, wearing no makeup, her face still puffy from a sleepless night. She didn't look at anyone. Jasmine arrived soon after, dressed sharper than usual, her eyes darting around as though she was both nervous and eager to be seen. Yandy, ever the calm in the storm, walked in last, her expression composed, but her energy heavy. Mona entered with her clipboard and a lawyer at her side. The chatter died instantly. She stood tall, the weight of authority radiating through the room. "We need to address what's happening. The podcast, the accusations, the chaos." Her gaze swept across the room, lingering on Rashida. "We've always walked a line between storytelling and reality, but when someone tries to weaponize their pain against this family, against this franchise, we need to protect ourselves." Jock raised a hand, cautious. "Look, Mona, I get it. Kirk's wild but he's still our brother, man. He'd been here since day one. We can't just treat him like dirt 'cause he snapped." Mona's face hardened. "This isn't about treating him like dirt. It's about accountability. He made his choices, and now he's trying to burn everyone else to cover his own flames." Rashida finally spoke, her voice low but clear. "He's not just burning everyone else. He's burning me. Every word he says makes it look like I'm weak, like I'm complicit. I'm not." Her eyes brimmed with tears, but her voice carried steel. "I won't let him rewrite my life to make himself feel better." The lawyer stepped forward. "We have legal grounds to act if Kirk continues leaking confidential material, but any public battle will get messy. The court of public opinion is already in session." Carly let out a theatrical sigh. "Baby, the court of public opinion been in session since season 1. Kirk just finally on trial." She giggled, ignoring the glares thrown her way. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Kirk strode in, uninvited, flanked by 2 of his old music buddies who looked more like bodyguards than friends. The room froze. His eyes locked on Mona, then Rashida. "Y'all holding court without me? Thought I was the star witness." Mona's voice was ice. "You weren't invited. This meeting is for professionals, not saboteurs." Kirk smirked, pulling a folder from under his arm. "Professional enough to keep records." He tossed the folder onto the table. Pages spilled out emails, call sheets, behind-the-scenes notes, receipts. "Proof y'all built whole seasons on my back and then cut me loose like trash." Rashida stood, her voice trembling. "Kirk, stop, please. You're embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself," he snapped, his voice rising. "I embarrassed myself when I cheated, when I lied, when I let the world clown me. But this is me fighting back. I ain't going out quiet." The tension exploded. Jock rushed forward, trying to calm Kirk, while Carly gleefully whispered into her phone, recording everything. Jasmine stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "You think this makes you look strong? It makes you look desperate." Kirk whirled on her. "Oh, and you don't. You've been using my name for clout since day 1. You think anybody cares about Jasmine without Kirk? Please, you've been milking my downfall for years." Jasmine's face twisted with fury. "At least I never pretended to be something I wasn't. You played the family man on camera and the dog off it. Now you mad the mask came off." The room erupted into dog off it. "Now you mad the mask came off." The room erupted into chaos, shelling accusations, tears. Mona finally slammed her hand on the table, her voice booming. "Enough. You want to destroy yourself. Kirk, go ahead, but you will not destroy this show. Not while I'm alive." Security was called, and Kirk was escorted out, still shouting, "This ain't over. You ain't heard the last of me." His voice echoed down the hallway, the sound of a man unraveling. After he was gone, the cast sat in stunned silence. Rashida buried her face in her hands, whispering, "I can't do this anymore." Yandy rubbed her back. "Yes, you can. You've already done the hardest part. Now it's about choosing peace over pain." Mona exhaled, her voice softer now. "We'll protect you, Rashida. No matter what he tries to say." the world already sees you for who you are, and we're going to build on that. But deep down, Mona knew the storm wasn't over. Kirk was unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous. That night, Kirk went live on Instagram from his car, his face sweaty, eyes wild. They trying to silence me. They trying to erase me, but I got the truth. Y'all think Mona the queen? She's the puppet master. And guess what? I got strings to cut. He waved his folder in front of the camera, feeding the frenzy. Tens of thousands tuned in live, the comments flooding. Some cheered him on, others begged him to stop, but everyone was watching. Meanwhile, Rashida sat in her bedroom, the glow of her phone lighting her tear-streaked face. She scrolled through supportive messages from fans, clinging to the encouragement like a lifeline. One message stood out. "You don't owe him your silence. Tell your story, your way." She exhaled, wiping her cheeks. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of defiance, not against Kirk, but against the silence that had trapped her. The following week, Rashida announced a live event, Boss Up, a night of truth and resilience. It was framed as a women's empowerment summit, but everyone knew it was more than that. It was her chance to reclaim the narrative. The tickets sold out in hours, fans desperate to hear her speak her truth, unfiltered. Kirk watched the announcement on his phone, rage boiling. "She using my downfall to sell tickets," he growled. His friend tried to calm him. "Bro, let it go. You already trending. Don't ruin what's left." But Kirk shook his head. "If she wants war, I'll give her war." The night of the event arrived. The venue buzzed with anticipation, fans lining up in glitter and sequins, holding signs that read Team Rashida and Boss Chick Forever. Cameras flashed, bloggers circled, the atmosphere electric. Backstage, Rashida adjusted her mic, her heart pounding. Yandi squeezed her hand. "This is your moment, own it." When Rashida walked on stage, the crowd erupted in cheers. She stood tall, her voice steady. "For years, my life has been played out on TV. You've seen the fights, the tears, the betrayals. But what you haven't seen is the strength it takes to keep standing. Tonight, I'm here to tell you, pain doesn't define you. Choices do, and my choice is to rise." The crowd roared, chanting her name. For the first time in a long time, Rashida felt free. But outside the venue, parked in a dark SUV, Kirk watched through tinted windows, his face unreadable. His phone buzzed with a new message from an anonymous number. "If you really want to bring her down, I got info you can use." He stared at the screen, torn between bitterness and the faint flicker of regret. His thumb hovered over the reply button, the weight of his next move heavier than anything he'd ever faced. The storm was far from over, and Atlanta braced itself for the next explosion. The dust of Mona's decision still hasn't settled. Kirk Frost, once one of the most unshakable names in love and hip-hop, Atlanta, has been cut from the empire he helped build. The firing wasn't just a routine production change. It was a seismic shock that split the cast, rattled the fans, and exposed just how fragile the balance of loyalty, fame, and family really is. Think about it. We watched Kirk sit in that room, stunned into silence when Mona's words landed like a hammer. "You're done?" In that instant, years of scandals, betrayals, and carefully edited reconciliations came crashing down. No cameras could soften the reality he had finally pushed too far, and the fallout was immediate. Rashida's face told the story of a woman torn between grief and freedom. Jasmine's smirk hinted at revenge, served cold. Jock looked like a man watching history crumble in slow motion. Even Mona herself, queen of control, revealed the cost of cutting ties with someone who had carried whole seasons on his shoulders. But as the storm grew, the family was left divided in a way no producer could script. Kirk's fury drove him into rants, leaks, and threats. He tried to flip the narrative, tried to paint Mona as the puppet master and Rashida as complicit. He wanted to drag everyone into his spiral, to remind the world that he wasn't just a villain, he was the foundation. Yet the harder he fought, the more desperate he looked. The fans weren't fooled. They saw the difference between a man protecting his truth and a man clinging to power. Meanwhile, Rashida rose from the wreckage. For years, she carried the burden of Kirk's chaos, forced to smile while her life unraveled on camera. Now, for the first time, she chose herself. Her words at the summit weren't just a clapback to Kirk, they were a declaration. Pain doesn't define you, choices do, and my choice is to rise. That wasn't a storyline, that was survival turned into strength. And fans were shocked in the best way possible, rallying around her like never before. The cast, too, showed us their colors. Carly fanned the flames with her messy commentary, Jock tried to hold the pieces together, Jasmine toyed with redemption, and Yandy emerged as the quiet anchor Rashida never knew she needed. Every reaction was a mirror of how fragile this family really is. Because when Kirk fell, It wasn't just his story that cracked, it was the entire world of love and hip-hop. And let's not forget Mona. Love her or hate her, she made the call no one thought she'd make. She fired Kirk Frost, the man who had been both the bane and backbone of her show for years. In doing so, she proved that no one, no matter how iconic, no matter how central to the drama, is untouchable. She put the integrity of the show above the chaos of one man. She reminded everyone that love and hip-hop isn't built on one character. It's built on the fire that comes when stories are raw, messy, and real. But here's the thing. This story isn't finished. Kirk is still out there, folder in hand, dangling his receipts and plotting his next move. Rashida is stepping into a new chapter, but will the ghosts of the past let her live in peace? Jasmine is at a crossroads. Will she finally grow, or will she slide back into old patterns? And Mona, as much as she insists the show is stronger without Kirk, knows deep down that his shadow will loom over every scene for seasons to come. The question that lingers isn't just about Kirk's future, it's about the future of love and hip-hop. Atlanta. Now, this is where you come in. You've seen the fights, the tears, the betrayals. You've watched families fall apart and rebuild. But what do you think happens next? Is Kirk really finished? Or will his next move shake the show in ways Mona can't control? Does Rashida finally find peace and independence? Or is she destined to get pulled back into the cycle? Can Jasmine reinvent herself? Or will her smirk always remind fans of the chaos she brought? And should Mona really be celebrated for firing Kirk or criticized for letting it go on this long? Fans are already divided, but your voice matters here. Drop a comment below and let us know which side you're on. Hashtag Team Rasheeda, hashtag Team Kirk, or maybe even hashtag Team Mona. Do you believe Kirk's accusations about production staging the drama? Or do you think he's just bitter because his time is up? And here's the bigger question. Will love and hip-hop ever be the same without him? If you've been riding with this franchise since day one, you know that every ending is just the start of another storm. So don't just watch this story unfold, be part of it. Hit that like button if you're rooting for Rashida's rise. Smash subscribe if you want to stay updated as Kirk makes his next desperate move. And turn on those notifications. Because you already know, the next twist could drop any minute, and you don't want to miss it. This isn't just TV anymore. It's a saga, a legacy, a family torn apart for the world to see. And the only thing more shocking than what we've already witnessed is what's coming next. So, buckle up, comment your predictions, and stay locked in. Because when Mona Scott fires a man like Kirk Frost, the aftershocks don't end in one episode, they ripple through everything. The cast is shaken, the fans are screaming, and the family is left divided. And as always in Atlanta, the drama is far from over.